So a few days ago we talked about aperture, but essentially we were only talking about depth of field, just one part of the aperture setting which lets you determine how much you want of your shot in focus. There's more to aperture than that. The other really important thing in aperture is you can determine how much light you let into your lens and camera. So it's very valuable when you want to take a shot in the dark. So let's say you're out for a romantic night and you want to capture the candlelight dancing in your significant other's eyes. Well, you can lower your aperture and take advantage of this beautiful scene in a dark setting.
But Tom, I thought you raise the ISO when it's too dark. What are you talking about aperture? I thought ISO was for dark photos.
Well, that's very true, nerd boy. ISO can be used to raise the light, like make it look brighter in a dark environment, but you pay a price. And the price you pay is grain or noise or a kind of distorted looking image if you haven't seen it before. It doesn't look pretty on a big screen. It'll probably look okay on IG. That's what happens when you raise the ISO too. Well, as you might imagine, if you use a lower aperture to let in more light, there is also a trade-off. That will mean that the whole scene will not be in focus necessarily. We talked about this in an earlier video. So you got to make a choice.
Now, what choice you make depends on what you're trying to do. Of course. It depends on your camera, depends on the conditions, depends on your intent.
For example, maybe your camera quality is not the best, and when you raise the ISO, it's just too grainy. You just don't like the way the shot's going to look when you do that. Well, you're going to have to lower the aperture. So you lower the aperture, you focus on your significant other's eyes, and maybe, you know, the nice wallpaper and the decor of the restaurant behind her is a little bit out of focus. Some people like that, so it could be cool.
Tom, I want everything in focus and I want a low noise shot. I don't want to compromise. Tell me what to do.
Settle down, buddy. Well, there's two things you can do. You can focus on something far away with a low aperture. Don't focus on her eyes, and you might be able to get the whole scene in focus. That's number one. The second thing you can do is bring lights. But, you know, I'm not into that. As you notice, I never use lights in my photos. And that's not really what we're talking about. So, as you see, there are limitations to camera. So this is where camera quality becomes important. This is one of the times when it matters what kind of camera you have. You know, mostly I'm saying, you know, the camera doesn't matter. Well, in a low light situation, the camera can matter. So if you have to have that photo of your baby cakes, it has to be low light. It has to all be in focus. It has to have no noise. Then you need something like a Sony A7S camera, which is like $3,000. You know, but these situations are very rare. I say start small, start cheap. Don't go out and buy a crazy camera. Use your camera. Once you bump up against its limitations and you realize it's not good enough for you, well then you can upgrade. So let's recap. Just remember, aperture can be used to adjust the depth of field. Watch my old video on that. And aperture can be used to adjust the amount of light coming into an image.